Yeah, that's right. Now, of course, Sydney, the big news right across the world today is the death, or you would say the Americans killed Osama Bin Laden yesterday. Now, on the line, we've got a spokesperson from the Australian 9/11 Truth Movement. His name's John Bursill. John, welcome to the Grill team. John, can I ask you, what exactly is the Australian 9/11 Truth Movement?
Well, the 9/11 Truth Movement's a loose association of from academics, professors at university, right through to just grassroots, footy-loving people like ourselves, and people that want to get to the bottom of the 9/11 attacks and get justice for the family members of the victims of that day.
So, what's your movement saying about Bin Laden this morning?
Well, I mean, obviously the conspiracy theorists, there's plenty of out and about, and there's plenty in our movement that just don't believe the reality we see on television. So people are highly sceptical, obviously, but personally, I think the American empire or Obama's administration's hitting the bottom at the moment, and they needed a good news story. So, I mean, that's one way of looking at it. The obviously other way of looking at it is that they really did dispose of Bin Laden this week, but it's interesting to remember that he's not actually wanted for 9/11.
What's he wanted for?
He's wanted for the embassy bombings and the bombing of the USS Cole. There's no hard evidence. The FBI said many times they don't have enough evidence to bring Bin Laden to court. Maybe that's why he got a mafia-style sea burial. I'm not sure.
So we just spoke to a bloke who lost his mum in these attacks. If he hears you on the radio now saying that there's conspiracy theories and stuff like that, do you think that's going to affect them in a detrimental sort of way?
Well, Mark, the whole thing affects them terribly. I worked with a fellow, Alberto Dominguez, who died on Flight 11 that day, and these family members have been suffering because there's just no closure. There's never been a proper investigation. I feel very sorry for the man you spoke to earlier about what he's going through today and the memories that are coming back. But obviously, the whole world was affected by 9/11, and it set up this war. These wars that we're going through at the moment on the pretext of 9/11. So, obviously, it's very important to the victims' families to get closure, but it's also very important for the world to understand what happened on that day.
Spoonman? If you don't think Bin Laden was behind the attack on September 11, 2001, who was?
He was behind the attack. I said the FBI doesn't have the evidence to take him to court on it.
What about the admission from Bin Laden himself?
Okay, Bin Laden denied that he was involved in 9/11 many times, and I don't know whether he was involved or not. We don't have enough evidence to know that. But he came, there was that video that we saw come up at the end of 2001 in December that was produced by, the Bush administration, showing him talking about the events that he had foreknowledge. He didn't actually admit it then, but I believe in 2004 it's been reported that he did admit to it. But as you know, with these radical Muslim fundamentalists, they normally like to, admit to these things immediately and take the glory of it. No one wanted to admit to 9/11. I'm not sure why that is, but Bin Laden, on the record, many times denied it. So
you're suggesting in a nutshell that it was a US government operation, that they did it to themselves? Is that your bottom line here?
Well, I'll just give you two pieces of evidence for your listeners to look at and see if there's questions worth asking about 9/11. Have a good look at Building 7, the third tower that fell that day, that fell at absolute freefall into its own footprint. For 2.5 seconds, it fell at absolute freefall, as if you dropped your football in the air straight to the ground, right? Now, buildings just don't do that. Now, Building 7 is something they should look into. They should look into the 9/11 Commission report itself and the fact that officially the military was only alerted to one aircraft being hijacked that day. Things like that are just unbelievable. Those planes were in the air for nearly 2 hours, and the plane that crashed that Yvonne died on officially wasn't even reported to the military coming to the Pentagon, the most heavily defended building in America.
All right, John, look, we appreciate you taking your time to speak with the Grill team this morning. A lot of people want to have their say on the phones this morning, 133353.
Guys, I really think, look, I think for total closure for people, I think it's imperative that the Americans release some pictures of Bin Laden, whether they will or not, I'm not sure.
Guys, you can't be doubting, can't you? You can't be doubting what they're saying.
But, for the people, a tiny percentile, hurts. And I think, if it did, I believe it did happen, but I think it's important that they release footage. Yeah,
all we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the